Brittany from the Royal News Network. Let's get back to our amazing
Mhm.
AMA questions from our incredible joint outspoken RNN audience. Elizabeth Potts 6585 asks, many people are calling for Harry or at least his children to be removed from the line of succession. But don't you think this seems like a slippery slope? Once in the practice of picking and choosing who could become monarch, then why not just make it an elected position? Very interesting
I'm
from Elizabeth Potts. What do you reckon, Brittany?
Mhm. I mean, that's a very interesting question, Elizabeth, for sure, because it is sort of a slippery slope. But I think in this modern era, because in previous, in the medieval times, the Renaissance and stuff, things were dealt with a bit more, you could call it aggressively when it came to errant members of a royal family. You sent them off to war and hoped that war took care of the rest, sort of thing. And so I think in this sort of modern era, you do actually need some way to, I mean, discipline may sound like a harsh word, but to share with them, hey, you're part of this. You have to be, act a particular way. If you decide not to do that, I mean, that's your right, but there are consequences. I think there needs to be an element of consequence here so you don't end up with a situation like Harry, because Harry and Meghan left in part because they thought they could just do whatever the heck they wanted. Nobody was going to tell them no because nobody really had told them no. And so I think you need sort of a system here where a no is in in the vocabulary somewhere, or of, "Oh, caution, if you leave, then again, you leave something else behind. You just don't get to go off and do whatever you want without consequences." There has to be consequences here, and I don't know quite how those look, but yeah, being stripped of your place in the line of succession and title, I think that's a great way to keep some royal family members in line.
Very good point. Next question from Galloping Cat 1745, who writes, Dan, I'm glad that you've added Brittany as a regular guest. She always has an interesting perspective on all things royals, including royalty from other countries. My question relates to the British press and the royal family. Can you confirm whether or not there is now, or if there has ever been, an embargo or super injunction in place regarding the circumstances of the births of the children of Prince Harry and Meghan Markle? I know that Brittany isn't interested in this topic, but I know that you are, and that you have been in a position to know the answer to my question. It seems that many members of the press know things about this topic, but very few are willing to cover it. It makes me wonder if there has been a prohibition on reporting about it. Thank you. So, Brittany, I'll kick off. My understanding is that there has not been any form of injunction or super injunction, although the crazy way that the courts of law work in the United Kingdom, I always like to be transparent about this, that if there is a super injunction in place, what a super injunction means is that you cannot even report that there is a super injunction in place. But I will stress that is not my understanding. I think the British press have been very, very reluctant to touch this story. Brittany, do you want to come in?
Yeah, so this has always been a bit of an interesting one because I was very briefly on the surrogacy bandwagon very early in Megan's first pregnancy with Archie. She was just very weird about her bump. I mean, it drew more attention to it, but not in like a positive way. You're just like, why are you touching your stomach so much? You really don't. You just had a big burrito breakfast. That's what it looks like right now. Why are you cupping nothing? It was very bizarre. But as time went on, especially with in particular her weight gain, I was like, okay, I'm not really on the surrogacy thing here. Do I think there was any sort of injunctions? Not as far as I can tell. Has that ever been reported? I mean, obviously, if it's a super injunction, you can't report. I've always come under the kind of understanding, seeing the whole situation, that it was really more about Harry and Meghan playing games that resulted in people unnecessarily questioning things. They Again, every toxicity thing is result of them. They're the problem. They constantly they she wanted to play games, she wanted to get one over on the press, and now everybody thinks her children are either born via surrogate or fake, or she rents a kids, like, things that just don't make a ton of sense. They still exist there because of Harry and Meghan. Do I think maybe she padded her bump from time to time because it didn't look big enough to her, the right shape to her, what have you? I 100% believe that's entirely a possibility. But the whole pregnancy, no. If you know surrogacy laws in the UK, I believe my understanding is that not only can you not pay somebody to do it, so you can't actually, like in the United States, you can pay somebody to be a surrogate. That's not the case in the UK. But also as well, I believe Meghan would actually have to technically adopt Archie if he was not born from her. The legal guardian of the parent in the UK, which is a complication as well, is always the mother who gave birth, and then the adoption can be organized later, whereas that is not the case sometimes in the United States. So all those legalese to say, as far as I'm aware, there's no injunction, there's no great conspiracy here, just a narcissistic woman attempting to control the narrative. And of course, it never goes the way Meghan Markle wants it to go. It always is worse. And the people who are suffering really truly here are her children. There's so many questions around her kids that are unnecessary, but she's a narcissist, so that's what happened.
Yeah, and I think it is worth going back. I've spoken about this with Lady Colin Campbell before, but right back in May 2019, it was the 10th of May 2019, I posed a whole load of questions to Buckingham Palace about the birth of Archie because I've never believed that the circumstances around the birth of Archie were normal. And I was trying, from my position in the mainstream media as executive editor of The Sun, to try and get some answers. And I think it is just worth sharing with you, Brittany, what I asked them then and what they told me, just to see if it adds up at all. So these were all official, on the record from Buckingham Palace. So I asked, why did Harry and Meghan's American PR, Sarah Latham, promise to alert the media the moment Meghan went into labour, only to wait around 12 hours to do so? And they answered, we have always made clear the wish of the Duke and Duchess of Sussex that the birth would be a private event, as stated in our Royal Comms operational note issued on April 10. Their Royal Highnesses have taken a personal decision to keep the plans around the arrival of the birth private. The Duke and Duchess look forward to sharing the exciting news with everyone once they have had the opportunity to privately celebrate as a new family. The Duchess had gone into labour in the early hours of the morning during the pre-agreed media blackout period. The labour announcement was predominantly for operational purposes to trigger the opening of the media facility. However, I went on, Brittany, why did she then seem to lie about it by eventually announcing Meghan was in labour 9 hours after she had actually given birth? The answer, she didn't. Media reporting inferred that the Duchess was in labour, not our announcement. The announcement stated that the Duchess went into labour in the early hours of the morning. The Duke of Sussex was by Her Royal Highness's side and an announcement will be made soon. Question, was the announcement delayed until 1 p.m. in time for the American breakfast TV shows in New York at 8 a.m? Answer, no. The announcement was timed to suit the Duke and Duchess after their friends and family had been informed. Question, had CBS This Morning been tipped off about the due date and birth plans in order to allow presenter Gayle King to fly to the UK and film a primetime special? Answer, no. CBS are making a programme to commemorate the Royal Highness's first wedding anniversary. Question, when an email failure meant the media could not be alerted at 1 p.m. that Meghan had gone into labour, even though she had actually given birth at that point, why not speak directly to news organisations on the phone? Answer, we were advised there were technical issues with the announcement. We have apologised to the media who were affected. When we realised the email had not been sent, we tried to contact as many people as quickly as possible. Question, why in the period between the in labour announcement being broken by Sky and the Instagram post announcing the birth, did Buckingham Palace press officers officially deny any birth? Answer, we would only ever confirm the birth following an official announcement. Instagram was also not how the birth was announced. It was done via an official announcement. Question, was the 12:40 p.m. embargo on little Archie's first appearance put in place to maximise coverage on US morning TV shows? Answer, no. The photo call at 1200 with embargo of 12:40 was timed to fit around the timing of the Sussexes' visit to Windsor Castle to introduce their son to his great-grandparents. Question, given Prince Harry spoke publicly about the birth in such lovely detail, why not inform the media of where it took place in order to stop speculation and unnecessary false reporting? Answer, We have always said the birth would be private in accordance with the express wishes of the parents and make it clear on the day we would not be releasing the information. In this context, it is very unfair to blame individuals for stories which the press chose to run. So, Brittany, the reason I wanted to go through all of that is to show that, number one, I have been on this story from day one. I knew something didn't add up. It's quite incredible that at the time, Buckingham Palace were prepared to answer those questions on the record. That went against all of the protocol, and it showed their huge concern about the dodgy nature of this. The emails were down. Why didn't you just make a phone call? But even all of these years on, it doesn't make sense to me, Brittany.
I mean, if you look at the whole thing, it's just a mess. You see Buckingham Palace bending over backwards in order to try to justify trying to placate Harry and Meghan. When the answer should have been from Buckingham Palace, when Harry and Meghan were like, "Well, we want to do all these things our own way." It should have been, "No. If you are having this child in the line of succession this high up, unfortunately, the reality is you need to abide by these specific rules. We're not going to make a special exception to you." Because I think, again, making all these accommodations for them only inflated their egos further. What it should have been is simply, this is how it's done. Yes, you have all this other control in other areas, but you don't get to lie to the press. And yes, I know they were tricky in their wording, but much like Harry's statement that his family was racist, the media ran with it. And did they correct it? No. Did they correct it when Archie was born? No. They should have just said, Archie has arrived. Like, I don't understand why they had to be vague in order to placate the two of them. And obviously, Meghan wanted to play to the US press because she knew she was going to drag her husband back to the United States with her to try to make it in Hollywood. So she wanted to always maximize US coverage as much as humanly possible. I can totally imagine them trying to work everything around that. But the palace should have said no. They should have, again, they're members of the family, they're working royals, they have security. There are certain requirements to live in this world. And if you can't abide by them, then yeah, you're going to have to leave and leave your title at the door. That's
Totally.
going to be how it has to work.
And I'm sorry, to try and say that, oh, we didn't lie, it's like, well, you omitted the crucial piece of information, just like you admitted where the birth took place. Why? Why couldn't we know the doctors? Why couldn't we know the details? That is royal tradition. It was all very, very odd. And I guess, look, I'm not someone, I don't even believe in the term conspiracy theory, Brittany, because every time someone says something is a conspiracy theory, or I've been accused of spreading a conspiracy theory. And by the way, I'm not talking about stories connected to the royal family. I'm talking about, for example, that COVID didn't leak from a Chinese lab when I knew it didn't. People called me a conspiracy theorist. You know what I mean? That type of thing.
Yeah.
I don't call it a conspiracy theory, but I do think that I was onto this from the start in terms of knowing something was up, asking those questions. And it is really shameful to me that given I was asking those questions in The Sun, that was published in The Sun, the UK's biggest tabloid newspaper at the time, why did the rest of the mainstream media not pick up on that, given they were all lied to as well, with very, very odd reasoning? Because you can just pick up the phone. Come on. What, the email didn't send? Oh, none of it makes sense. Anyway, let's move on. Frommy Bench Pin 5717 asks, "Hi Dan, love you and your show so much." Oh, thank you very much. "I would ask Brittany if Netflix will cancel Meghan Markle's cooking show after the Centre Bali scandal. Meghan is most likely behind Prince Harry's actions because she is the biggest bully of them all." So, Frommy Bench Pin has a clear view. Isn't the problem, Brittany, that at this point Netflix are all in? They can't cancel. It's filmed.
No, they're not going to cancel it. It's already filmed. So there are cases where it was sometime, I think last year, they had a Batgirl movie that was canned by WB. And so they got a tax write-off for that. So the only avenue Netflix could have here is a tax write-off. But unfortunately, Netflix is 100% in the bag with Harry and Meghan in particular. So they are a sort of passive investor in her brand, as Ted Sandros put it to Variety. So they have a vested interest in seeing some of her brands succeed because I'm sure they're getting royalties from the products. That would be how I structure the deal, is to make sure I get some sort of kickback for investing in this. I mean, again, like that they decided Netflix in their infinite wisdom, who won the streaming wars, decided to invest in spread. I will never understand, but they are already in. It's already done. And for them, like the best thing they can do right now is continue and try to get this out. And so it can be something that is sort of officially making more money. Because I think the reason why I don't even think now that the wildfires were really the reason they delayed it. They wanted to delay it to get it closer to the launch of the products, because the further away the show is from the products, the less products are going to sell. We do have the second series or second season where they're hoping to sell more. So this is all about making money. Netflix wants to make money. They've wasted a lot of money on Harry and Meghan with very little return. They might get at least royalties with her products, so they're going to do that.
Very good point. I love this next question, Brittany. I have to say it's my favorite. It's from Polly Livingstone Sloan. And I've given you no warning for this, Brittany, so you're going to have to go off the top of your head. But she asks, if you could go to a royal occasion as an invited guest, past or present, what would it be?
Ooh, past is difficult to say, but present, for some reason, it's always been the Swedish Nobels. I've always wanted to go to the Swedish Nobels. So I don't know why. It's just that it's just so cool because everybody comes, they dress up in their gala and in their very best. I applied to actually go as a member of the press last year, and I was very excited because even if you're a writing member of the press, you actually get to sit in the banquet hall with everybody and enjoy dinner. You had to pay for it, but I was like, I'll pay for that. But that's for some reason the event that just seems like magic to me is that particular event. Now, it would also be, I don't think we're anticipating any big royal wedding in the future in terms of like an heir getting married. That's always a huge occasion, but the other royals tend to have more tiaras at some of those type of wedding events. So I'd love to go to one of those as well. I've been lucky enough to be able to cover a state visit and see Queen Mary wearing a tiara in person. That was very, very exciting. But for some reason, the Swedish Nobels, that's like the thing I want to
Oh,
see.
I
I
love
don't
that.
know why, but that's
I'm trying to think. So I covered the first royal visit I covered actually was
Mhm.
in 2000 and gosh, what was it? 2001, I think, when the late Queen Elizabeth II and Prince Philip visited Wellington, New Zealand. So that was my first
Ah.
royal visit. That was
Mhm.
amazing to cover. And then I also covered the wedding of Charles and Camilla in Windsor in 2005.
Mhm.
But I think in terms of events, the present event or the most sort of recent event, I guess, would be the wedding of William and Catherine,
Mm.
because
Yeah.
I think that just would have been incredible. And I would have loved to have seen their private happiness. And that was such a special day. I was covering it for the TLC network in America, actually. And it
Mm.
was just a glorious, glorious, special day. But I would have loved to have been inside. And I think in
Mm.
terms of a past event, Brittany, for me, it's got to be the coronation of Elizabeth II. I just think,
Mm.
wow. I know
Yeah.
it was televised a little bit, but not in all its glory. And to see such a young queen would have just been amazing. Of course, there were so many more people in the Abbey
Mhm.
for that event. So I think probably the past event. But then I think, Brittany, and maybe some people are going to think I'm so sick for saying this, but just because it was such an emotional, devastating time, I think maybe the funeral of Princess Diana, that would have been something
Mm.
that you just would have wanted to be there to experience that moment with everyone when we were feeling that grief. But yeah, I think probably the coronation of Queen Elizabeth II, probably for me. Julie Slap 176 asks Brittany, what does she think Catherine's next tiara she wears might be?
Mhm.
And also, out of the available collection for Catherine, what one would she suit the most?
Ooh, I have very passionate feelings about the tiaras of the British royal family. And I love that we're seeing more sharing between the members. I think that's very, very good because Sophie wore the lotus flower, which Catherine has previously worn. It still had the felt that matches Catherine's hair. So that seems to be a last minute change. And then Camilla wore the aquamarine ribbon, which Sophie has previously exclusively worn. So for Catherine, one of the ones I'm really hoping we see, because I was really hoping to see the Strathmore Rose, and she blessed us with that in 2023. But the next one I want to see which I'm really hoping made its way back into the vaults. We're not entirely sure though, is actually the turquoise tiara that Princess Margaret used to wear way back in the day. She was the one who had the control of that. So the turquoise and diamond tiara that she had, I would love to see Catherine wear that. It's a bit of a higher profile, but I think totally appropriate for a princess of Wales. And turquoise is so unique. There's not too many of those type of tiaras out there, and I think it really would suit Catherine with her dark hair. So I'm really hoping that is one of the ones that we see sometime here in the near future, because one of the things I dislike about the Brits is that you're kind of given the tiara you're given and that's it. Whereas some families, particularly the Swedes and the Dutch, like anybody can show up in any tiara. Yeah, that's it right there. I'm really hoping
Brittany,
Catherine busts that out.
Yeah, because I think, isn't, is that the same tiara? Did Diana wear it, or
No,
is it
no.
different?
Diana had the Spencer. So
Oh,
Diana
okay.
exclusively wore pretty much the Spencer. So
So
they have
Diana
some similar
never
design
wore
elements.
the turquoise tiara. Okay.
Mm-mm. It was Princess Margaret. She was the one who had the exclusive use of it. And when she passed away, obviously the Baltimore tiara, that one was obviously sold at auction. But this one, we don't know. It does have connections to the family. So I can imagine, I would hope it made its way back into the vault, because I think that would be a spectacular piece on Catherine. Really looking forward to it. Obviously, the Spencer belongs to the Spencer family. I know some people think Charlotte's going to inherit it. That's really unlikely unless the Spencers decide, well, they'll leave it to the main line of the British royal family so others who are descendants of Diana can use it. I just find that unlikely, but the turquoise, that's what I'm gunning for. We haven't seen that one in a long time. I love seeing an old tiara be a bust out of the vaults. It's the best.
This is an interesting question, Brittany, to wrap from Luke Edwards. What does a royal warrant mean? Does it really enhance a brand or not? Is it more a political tool now, or does it really mean the product is used by the royal household? And I
It's
think...
very...
Sorry, you go, Brittany.
No, I was just going to say, go ahead. I was just going to say, very interesting question.
Yeah, well, my understanding, certainly, like, because I'm thinking about, like, Fortnum and Masons, for example, the royals have always loved it and loved their products, and obviously they do groceries, and I think they have the royal warrant for grocers and tea. And I know the royal family, I mean, they love Fortnum and Mason products. So certainly in some cases, they're very passionate about it. And Brittany, I would imagine they have to, because like there was the Goreen Hotel, which has a royal warrant for hospitality services, was truly the place that the late Queen loved going for lunch. So I think it does mean something. But what do you think, Brittany?
You know, I haven't done too much research on royal warrants myself, but when you see sort of the brands that are chosen, they're definitely quintessential royal brands.
Jaguar has one.
Yes. Burberry has one.
Yes.
And so I think it reflects, obviously, that the royals have used these products. I don't think it's like absolutely outside the question that, oh, they're just choosing these for political reasons. Now, will that come up from time to time? I mean, that's entirely possible. Don't want to rule out that possibility. But I think most of the time, I think what Camilla's hairdresser was given a royal warrant. So they definitely give them out, you could say a little bit as favors, but it's like, if you love a brand, if you're wearing the brand constantly, for some reason, I think clothes, when I think of royal warrants, that if it's a passion of yours, like Alexander McQueen could end up with a royal warrant at some point. Emmy London is another brand favorite of Catherine. They could end up with one at some point. She wears a lot of their shoes. And so I definitely see them giving them out based on what they are passionate about. Their royals are like, well, I like this particular product, so let's go ahead and represent this one here. I think it's absolutely fabulous.
Because
it's amazing.
some are so like run of the mill, like Samsung TVs apparently has a royal warrant.
7 years. It has been 7 years since Archie Harrison was born, and we still don't have a straight answer about what actually happened that morning. Buckingham Palace issued not one, but two contradictory statements within minutes of each other. The birth certificate told a completely different story than what the public was told. And the doctors? Their signatures were notably absent from the official notice. something that had never happened before in modern royal history. So the question every royal watcher should be asking isn't just what happened, it's why are they still dodging it? Let's lay out the facts that the mainstream royal press loves to gloss over. Buckingham Palace put out a statement confirming Meghan had gone into labor in the early hours of the morning, but a second announcement, released within 20 minutes, stated she had already delivered a son at 5:26 a.m. Think about that timeline. You're telling the public she just went into labor, and then 20 minutes later you're announcing the baby is already here? Either somebody at the palace was asleep at the wheel, or there was a deliberate decision to stagger and obscure what was actually happening. Contrary to all the reports that Meghan had planned a home birth in Windsor, the birth certificate confirmed she delivered at the Portland Hospital in London, and the couple had reportedly been taken there by their security team the night before. So not only was the location wrong in media reports, the whole narrative of a peaceful, private home birth in Windsor was a fiction, a story sold to the public. And nobody in the palace or Sussex camp corrected it until the paperwork forced their hand. Unlike every prior royal birth in recent memory, Archie's birth notice on the palace easel did not include signatures from the attending doctors. That's not a minor procedural omission. That is the kind of detail that, when it goes missing, should trigger serious questions, not polite shrugs. Now let's be clear about something. The surrogacy theories that float around online are speculation. But here's the thing. You don't accidentally create the conditions for those theories to thrive. You create those conditions by issuing contradictory statements, hiding the birth location, scrubbing doctor signatures, refusing a hospital steps photo call, and then never, not once, giving a clean, coherent account of what actually happened. Every layer of misdirection they chose added another brick to the wall of suspicion around this story. And now, years later, the Royal News Network is still fielding audience questions about it in an AMA format, because the palace's responses have never been satisfying enough to close the chapter. That says everything. Here's my take, and I'm not going to soften this. Meghan and Harry made a calculated decision to keep the public in the dark about Archie's birth, and then watched quietly as the confusion they manufactured spiraled into years of speculation. They had every opportunity to simply tell the truth, timeline and all. They didn't. Instead, they weaponized privacy selectively, meaning private when the details were inconvenient, public the moment there was a Netflix camera or an Oprah couch involved. The institution of Buckingham Palace, for its part, issued statements that raised more questions than they answered, and then declined to clarify. That's not protecting a family. That's protecting a narrative. And when you protect a narrative hard enough, for long enough, people start asking what the narrative is hiding. Here's what I want you to sit with. Archie just turned 7 years old. His birthday also falls on the same day as King Charles III's coronation anniversary, a date the palace marked with a garden party. 2 celebrations. 2 very different royal realities. One child growing up in Montecito, largely hidden from the world. Another family marking the strength and continuity of the crown. And somewhere in between those 2 worlds is a birth story that has never been fully told. So I'll ask you directly, do you believe Buckingham Palace has told us everything it knows? Or do you think the full truth about Archie's arrival is still sitting in a file somewhere, waiting for someone brave enough to pull it out? Drop your answer in the comments. Because this story, it is far from over. Comment your theory below. Subscribe, new royal breakdowns dropping weekly.